Well, it's been a long time coming, that's for sure. Today we're going to tour the abandoned Victory Theater, and I've been trying to get into this place for quite some time. Back in 2019, I reached out to one of the people that runs the company that owns this building. Her name is Kathy, and we had a whole big plan to come in and shoot. We had days set out, and then all of a sudden 2020 hit, and the pandemic struck, and everything was sort of thrown into a tailspin. And then one day, 2021, out and about shooting around Holyoke, well, I got a phone call from Kathy. She was like, "Hey, Rob, I got 3 hours. You want to come in and take some fucking pictures?" And as luck would have it, I was in the area, drove down High Street, popped into the Victory Theater, met with Kathy for a moment, and then got the place to myself to go photograph for a while. So as you first walk into this building, you're met with this really kind of substandard foyer. It doesn't really blow your mind. It's really small, but it opens right up to the first floor where there is seating and obviously access to the stage. And I kind of walked around here. Kathy told me I had 3 hours, so I was just wandering around and kind of getting a feel for everything. There was this like little stand that was made sort of surreptitiously as like a memorial for some of the artifacts that were found here. A lot of the stuff dating back to the 60s and 70s, but there were some really interesting old signs from like the 30s and 40s. That whole section was sort of like an afterthought to me. I really wanted to see what the building looked like before I decided to take some compositions. So I made my way up to the second floor on this really beautiful old marble staircase, and it opened up to this really astounding rotunda. And it's in pretty poor shape, as it is. A lot of the walls in here are made out of pine, and the pine has expanded and broke apart. But it is really, really impressive to see. So it's super hot in here. I took out the Zoom H5. I want you guys to hear what it sounds like in here because I don't have my microphone on. I have a light because there's very little natural light in here. But I just want you to hear what it sounds like in this little area. Woo! Woo! What? That sounds so cool. So there's nobody else in here. It's just me, Kathy, the very, very sweet woman who runs the program that owns this entire abandoned theater. Just said, go out there and have some fun, explore, and go see what this place has to offer. Photograph as much as you want. If you didn't get as much as you wanted, come back. Very, very sweet, very generous of her to do so. So it's completely dead quiet in here. There's not a person in here except for me, and occasionally you hear some creaking, and obviously it's an old building, but it is a little spooky when you hear something creaking when you're the only person in here. So I decided to set up the 4x5 with my 90mm Super Angulon and some Ilford Delta 100, set up my first composition. I had a really hard time because there was a lack of light in this place. There were floodlights all throughout. There was only one section that had natural light, which you're going to see just after this part. But this part right here really had no great lighting, so I couldn't really see my focus from the back wall to right in front of me. So I struggled with the composition, but I think, ultimately get a shot that I was pretty happy with. And one of the things that I really like about this shot is some of the detail you see in the floorboards. All of this stuff is original from 1920, and you can see just how worn out these floorboards are from people coming out during intermission and getting concessions and talking, waiting for those lights to flicker to know that the second part of the show is going to start. There's a lot of history there, and I think it's really fascinating to see just how worn out they are. When you look around, obviously, on the walls and everything, and these old pine slabs that were sort of lining this rotunda, the ceiling, which had a mural on it at one point, which is almost completely non-discernible at this point. It's really fascinating how some of the plaster is starting to fall apart, and just a great little shot to sort of encapsulate exactly how much time has passed and how important this little spot was for some of the shows. Now, I mentioned that I had my Intrepid 4x5. I also had my Mamiya 645 with a 55 millimeter lens and some Kodak Ektar. So there are some color images here along with the black and white. And just know that any of the color images are medium format. The black and white stuff is all large format. So I set up the 4x5 to take a shot sort of overlooking these, the second floor foyer. You had the bathroom on the right. You had these old metal chairs on the right. And you had these beautiful windows with these brown stained glass shutters that were permanently sort of stuck outward because of all the rust. And I took the shot on the 4x5, and I kind of liked it. I thought this was a pretty interesting image. And I took it again on the 645, but just a little bit closer up by where those chairs were positioned. And I like this composition just a little bit better, I think. I'm maybe just a sucker for color.
I know the audio is going to be hard to listen to in this. I know, I'm aware. I'm sorry, there's an echo, there's terrible, there's no microphone, there's no shotgun mic. But I framed that up nicely because there's a building out there, a church, with the window. Looks kind of cool. Yeah.
So after I took those two images, I decided I'm gonna go back down to the first floor, go up on the stage, see if I can get some images there. And as I was walking back around to head down to the first floor, I happened just to look back and see these light streaks that were coming through the windows And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I do now. But a lot of that dust in the air is asbestos. And unfortunately, I didn't have my respirator, which is something I normally would use if I was going into an abandoned building like this. But because it was a spur of the moment trip, I didn't have it on me. So yeah, it is what it is. So I saw that and I was like, this is wild. This is absolutely insane. So I set up my 4x5. I took a shot on black and white, and I was really, really happy with it. I was able to get down a couple of stairs onto like this little like landing spot, prop the 4x5 up a little bit higher, and it looks like it's almost like a floor level shot. I was really happy with this, but the next shot that I took, which was on color, was, I think, the winner, the one that really made the entire trip worth it. And the image I'm talking about is this one right here. So there is a lot of history here, tremendous amount of history. This place is over 100 years old. Celebrities would come and perform here like Betty Davis, the Marx Brothers, Bing Crosby would play here. And one of my favorite facts about not just the Victory Theater, but the Suffolk Theater and some of the other theaters in the area, Holyoke was known at the time as Little Broadway. And it got that name because a lot of the plays that would go onto the big stage in New York City first started here as sort of like a test site. So a lot of the community here in Holyoke, the people that would live in this area, the residents, they were able to see some of the first ever performances of some of these incredible shows, which I think is a really interesting little nugget of history about this place. I'm not going to say it's not spooky, but every once in a while, I look up and it's like, did I just see a person sitting there? Maybe it's just, the being here for several hours by myself starting to get to me, or maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's the 13 drinks I had last night, or maybe there's some ghosts. Now, I think the worst part, especially for me as a photographer, you kind of have that feeling of like, I'm in control. I am aware of my surroundings, and I'm really keyed into making this successful. And as I was kind of setting up my last and final shot, I had set my 4x5 up in the middle aisle, right in the middle of some seats. And I had gotten everything set up. I had composed. And as I was about to sort of like, cock my shutter, get everything ready, the doors opened at the front, and I heard Kathy yell. Robbie? So I knew my 3 hours was up. And unfortunately, at that time, I really didn't have any other choice. I said, okay, yeah, 60 seconds, because that's all I needed was 60 seconds. I was like, just give me 60 seconds, 1 minute, please. And she was like, yeah, okay, Rob, whatever. Took my shot, and she's, talking to me, asking me questions. I'm completely lost control of the situation. I don't really know what I was thinking. And 60 seconds up, my timer goes off. I undo my little shutter on my shutter release. And I go to put the dark slide back in and realize that I didn't take my dark slide out. Such a stupid mistake to have happen. Ultimately, I don't think the shot would have been that great. But it would have been nice to have it. But again, lost control of the situation, started to get distracted, and just didn't do all of my checks. And I didn't want to make her wait again another 60 seconds so that I could take the shot. So grabbed my 4x5, headed out to meet her, and that was about it. But this video was so much fun to make. A huge thank you to Kathy for allowing me in the MIFA Foundation, for being so supportive and being understanding throughout the entire pandemic. And then obviously sort of like after it started to die down, they were really great about still keeping me in mind. And a huge shout out to the Holyoke Public Library for making some of these archived newspapers available to me. I spent a lot of time trying to find them myself. I spent a lot of time there. I got a library card at the Holyoke Public Library just so I could go research it. And it turns out a lot of the time that I was spending there was just a complete waste. I was looking in the wrong section. I was looking in the arts and entertainment section for things about the Victory Theater, but it turns out they were all listed in the news and topics section, which is not where I was looking. So huge thanks to the public library for helping me sort that out. That was a big pain. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, and I hope you guys are well. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Farts! Farts and poop! Alright, let's class it up. Alright. Okay. Let's stand further back.
That's a bad impression of her, by the way. That's just like my standard Massachusetts woman's accent. You got some fucking pictures. You ought to fucking take pictures, you fucking... She was a little bit more sort of like nasally. Anyways, as luck would have it, you don't want to take some fucking pictures, Bob.
The only other noise I've heard in here, other than some just creaking from the old building, has been that one, and that's a pigeon. Loving it. This may not be a great video, but it's gonna be a lot of fun.